We have our next Mike Tomlin weekly press conference leading up to our Week 11 game versus the Cincinnati Bengals, where now the Bengals have to come to Pittsburgh versus us going there on a Thursday night. So I actually will be taking notes on this one just because Ollie is currently on the floor taking a nap. So he's not in my lap. I can take my notes and be a little bit better about this, a little more detailed. So let's get into Mike Tomlin's weekly press conference.
Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a quick synopsis of the last performance. And really, after combing through the tape, my perspective hadn't changed a whole lot on the significant components of the game and why it unfolded the way it unfolded. We certainly were not good enough in possession down play on offense, and that affected us in a lot of ways. First and foremost, the scoreboard. You got to possess the ball in an effort to score, and certainly if you're not doing a good enough job on possession downs, you need to have some big play splash, and we didn't really have either. Sometimes you can hit a 50-yard ball or what have you and flip the field and change the trajectory of that. And so a combination of possession down failures coupled with a lack of big-time field-flipping plays produced the outcome that it did. At the same time, it alters your time of possession. I thought we had the bones of a really good run game by plan and performance, but I think Jalen only had 14 carries. That happens when you don't win enough possession downs and maintain possession of the ball. Flip side, on the other side, the defense ends up on the field, the time of possession a lot. I thought we had the bones of a good run-stopping defense for the game, but as the game wore on, I thought we wore down defensively because of the imbalance in terms of the time of possession. And so it just speaks to the significance of playing good ball on third down offensively. We certainly know that, but we certainly suffered the consequences of not doing so.
I'm so sorry. Did I hit you? Are you recording?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Hi. All right, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, he was literally right by the door before. I didn't know if he moved or not.
Oh. Oh. Hello. Oh, thank you. Want to come with me for bed or want to stay here?
He hasn't been a huge fan of me for a little bit now.
Why?
I don't know.
Because you've been ignoring him? Oh, thank you.
He didn't want to cuddle me. I had him on my lap.
You didn't want to cuddle?
And
That's
I had him
not
on my
cute.
lap and he wanted to go down.
Okay.
If you want to spend a little time with him, you can.
Alright, don't put him in bed with me.
I know you had him all day, but who knows? Maybe because you had him all day.
Did you just throw up on me?
No.
Oh. Hi, big boy.
You might
Alright.
have hiccups.
Good night.
Good night.
Don't forget to lock the doors.
Yes.
Unless you're going to take them out one more time.
I mean, I'm going to, but I'll lock the doors then.
Okay.
Possession down failures coupled with a lack of big-time field-flipping plays produced the outcome that it did. At the same time, it alters your time of possession. I thought we had the bones of a really good run game by plan and performance, but I think Jalen only had 14 carries. That happens when you don't win enough possession downs and maintain possession of the ball. Flip side, on the other side, the defense ends up on the field, the time of possession a lot. I thought we had the bones of a good run-stopping defense for the game, but as the game wore on, I thought we wore down defensively because of the imbalance in terms of the time of possession. And so it just speaks to the significance of playing good ball on third down offensively. We certainly know that, but we certainly suffered the consequences of not doing so on Sunday night in L.A. For us, it really wasn't anything earth-shattering, to be quite honest with you, or things that we haven't seen. They didn't pressure us a lot. Most people don't pressure Aaron a lot. They did things schematically to make us distribute the ball elsewhere other than DK. Well, we see that week in and week out. I just think, you know, from a planning perspective and a playing perspective, all of us involved, coaches and players, we didn't do a good enough job positioning the others to be impactful, and the others didn't make enough plays. And that's just the reality of it. So with that understanding, man, we go back to work. I think on the other side, you know, I'm feeling some stability there, that we've gotten really solid with Jalen Ramsey and Kyle Duggar at safety. I think there's been a reduction in some of the big plays. I think we're making people earn it more. I think that's helping us in a lot of ways. I thought our possession down play was improved in that space. And so I'm excited about that stability that we've got at the safety position between those two that hadn't had a lot of it. And so it's reasonable to expect the trajectory of some of those things to improve. Certainly we didn't win the turnover battle. That's the X factor. When some other things aren't going well, you can always lean on that, and that's why culturally we value the protection and preservation of the ball, be it running, throwing, or catching, and the ball searching on defense. What a good day for us in that regard. We turned the ball over a couple times on offense, man, drop passes and overthrows, and certainly we didn't settle under a punt in the kicking game as well. And so, you know, there's a lot to be learned from that performance. Usually when you're learning, that means you're not successful, but it's an opportunity to learn nonetheless. We're excited about getting back in AFC North play, man, and getting hyper-focused on the opportunity that is this week in Acrisure versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Before I get into that, man, I just want to give you a quick injury update. Cole Holcomb is still working his way back to us, man. He'll be a limited participant to start the week, and we'll see where that participation goes in terms of the amount and the quality of it. Slay is in the concussion protocol, and so we'll let the protocol determine his availability. Peppers was running in a limited capacity the latter part of last week. I'd imagine that'll make him a limited participant tomorrow, and we'll kind of go from there. Isaac Siamalu is expected to participate in some capacity and then kind of build and go on from there. But we're optimistic about his return. Scotty Miller has been cleared to practice with his broken finger. And we have some other bumps and bruises associated with play that may limit some people, and there may be some veteran players, et cetera, that we manage at the early portions of the week this time of year. But none of those we expect to be significant in terms of player availability. If so, I'll give you guys an update. Now on to the Bengals. I'll start first with the defense. You know, they traded Logan Wilson, and so they got a young linebacker tandem. And that's been, you know, that's kind of the mentality that I've had. What's new with the Bengals? We played them just a short number of weeks ago. They just played in only 2 games since then. And so, you know, moving on from Logan Wilson, man, and the young linebacker tandem has my attention. Studied both guys a lot in the draft. Both guys were wise beyond their years and displayed that in their play. It's not shocking that they're getting an opportunity to play because of that personal maturity that I observed from those two in the draft process. They're certainly doing a nice job of communicating and being a hub of communication for the defense. They've had some instability on the edge with Trey missing some time, with Shamar missing some time, and so we're certainly respectful of what they're capable of on the edge, particularly if Trey is available. We just don't understand what that might be. I know from a planning perspective this time of week, as you start to put together plans, we better be inclusive. We better assume that he's playing. We better have enough schematic answers because he's the type of guy that can really dictate what transpires in stadiums. As I mentioned the last time we were getting ready to prepare for them, this guy had 35 sacks in the last 2 years, in 23 and 24, 17 and a half in both. That's the most in football, excluding no one. And so he's the type of guy that can obviously change the climate. The last time we played these guys in Acrisure, I think he had 3 sacks. And so we better proceed with that understanding. In the secondary, they're really gaining some traction, man, with a collection of guys that's been working together now for a couple of years. DJ Turner's playing really well. I think he leads the NFL in passes defense. He had a big game against us. Last time we played him, he largely traveled with DK for one-on-one matchup purposes. Dax Hill is versatile. He plays inside and out. Last week or the last time they played versus Chicago, He was a major component of the pressure game. They blitzed him a lot from that nickelback position. They got a safety tandem now that's played together for a couple of years as we get to the hump of the season, get on the other side of it with Geno Stone and Battle. Man, they've been back there together for 20-plus games now, and you see that cohesion that comes with working together, how they divide the labor up and how they work together. Geno Stone is usually the guy in the middle of the field and plays free safety. He's got 10 interceptions in 23 and 24. He's got good angles to the ball, ball judgment, vision of the quarterback, things of that nature. And so we got to do a real good job there managing, our talents versus theirs. Al Golden, I think we got a better sense of how he's trying to do it, having been in the stadium with him. He's new to them as a coordinator, but we got a pretty decent sample size now as we lean in on this game in terms of some of the things that he tries to do within their schematics and how he deploys people. On the other side of the ball, I'll go to the offense. It's 4 games now with Flacco at quarterback, and so it's less mystical about, how are they going to utilize his talents, how he's going to utilize the talents of those that he works with, how he distributes the ball in a variety of circumstances, possession down ball versus pressure, et cetera, the lens through which he sees their schematics. And as I mentioned the last time we played him, his processing, the fluidity of it, his experience is an asset to him and to them. And I imagine that's why they acquired him. I think that's played out and unfolded in a big way for him and them with each passing week. He threw for 470 yards last week. I think with each passing week, you're seeing another dynamic of him getting comfortable within their attack. The Bears, for example, spent a lot of time in 2 high safeties trying to minimize T and Chase, and he hit 8 passes to Brown for 75 yards in the form of checkdowns and so forth. And so I just think he's getting increasingly comfortable with the totality of his group, when to go, to who and why. That creates a challenge for us, but it also creates clarity for us because the more snaps they have on video, the more evident his and their personality is for those that compete against them. And so excited about pitting our skills against theirs. Certainly the receiver tandem is awesome and special, but they do a nice job distributing the ball, man. Noah Fant has made a lot of plays, increasingly so, since Gesicki has been injured. And as I mentioned last week, man, I really think Joe really found Brown in the passing game as well. They have other supplementary guys that you got to be able to deal with, and certainly you better be ready to deal with them as you do some of the things that you do to minimize those top 2 targets. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about their run game. I think that they've done a nice job of running the ball as well. I think Joe Flacco handles the RPO game very well. They're able to call more runs. When appropriate, they hand the ball off, and they've been getting good yards per in that area. But when you load the box, man, he'll throw the ball on the perimeter to Chase. Chase has caught a lot of balls, particularly against the Jets, for example. Man, I can't tell you how many run game alternative passes he caught on the perimeter as the Jets loaded the box. And so just with each passing week, you're seeing more and more of what they're capable of with Joe. It aids you in prep, but it doesn't make the challenge of the work any less daunting. But that's what we're here for as competitors. It's big-time AFC North ball. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the special teams component. Darren has been their coordinator for a long time. Charlie Jones ran a kickback the other week. I think he's got 3 returns for touchdowns in his 3-year career. One punt return and 2 kickoff. And so the field position component of this game is and always will be significant.
So he got his for the year. We're good.
Darren and Danny Smith been going at it a long time, man. Those 2 Grizzly veterans will be another chapter in their story this weekend. All of the above will be reasons why to tune in and be big factors for why this game's a big one for us. I'm excited about the prep process. They show your excitement for a game like this through the prep process. And so been a good couple of days from a staff perspective, formulating strategy, dividing the work up, et cetera. Can't wait to get on the field with the team tomorrow and continue. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, you mentioned this at the beginning. The play disparity every game has been on average like 14 or 15 plays. Is that concerning to you? How do you change that?
On some level it is. On some level it isn't. Sometimes it can get out of whack because you're taking the ball away, for example. And if you're taking the ball away a bunch like we did a couple of weeks back, and you're giving the offense the short fields, it can alter your time of possession. Or like our last outing, if you're not converting on third downs, it could be a negative thing. And so I'm largely not over concerned with that in general, but how are we coming to that is a bigger discussion for me.
Aaron expressed a desire, a hope to maybe get Jalen Warren some more touches. Can that dovetail with your hopes of trying to get better on third down, maybe implement Jalen on third downs more?
We win more third downs, we'll get Jalen more touches. It's as simple as that. You know, Jalen was having the trajectory of a good day in L.A., but we didn't convert enough third downs for you to really
It's
feel
not really
it.
the answer we wanted.
Interest in leaving him on the field for third downs as opposed to putting Kenny out there?
I'm comfortable with both backs in possession down ball, not taking anything away from Jalen. You know, he plays a lot on first and second down. You got to give him opportunities to catch a break. And so sometimes it's on third down, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we'll give other ball carriers the start of a possession. He just simply cannot play every down, but I'm completely comfortable utilizing both guys.
Of course, he
on
can't play
possession down
every
play.
down.
Like you mentioned, you know, teams are still paying DK a lot of attention. We're 8-9 games in. I mean, should the other guys have made steps now to
Another
sort of
12
mitigate
minutes.
that?
And at times we certainly have. But last week was an example of us not doing so. But in other weeks, it certainly has been the case. Each and every week, it seems like somebody, whether it's from the wide out room or the tight end room, steps up and has quality contributions that balance that out. But certainly that was not the case in LA.
You guys had some moving pieces up front on the offensive line. How do you assess the job that they did in pass protection, and then within that, Rodgers' ability to move and adjust to that pass rush?
You know, specifically talking about Spencer Anderson and Pete, I thought that they were above the line. And so that's the new component of it relative to the question that you asked. But just largely, as an offensive line, certainly we could have protected better in that football game.
Was that because Spencer, you like him so much in that role that you did the kind of the repeating him to guard instead of just?
Correct.
Mike, how much does moving Ramsey to safety kind of affect the plan for Chase and Higgins in this game from relative to what you guys did last time?
You mean their plan or our plan?
Your plan.
You know, I think we're still very much in development. Jalen is not the issue, man. He's got flexibility. It's about the flexibility of those around him and the talents of those around him. But certainly over the last 2 weeks, man, just his presence consistently at free safety has been a stabilizing force for us on the back end, and I'd imagine that's not going to change.
Seen from James Pierre the last couple weeks filling in there at outside corner.
James is always game. I thought he played really well, but I thought he's played really well when called upon all year. I think it's reflective of how he prepares and the level of professionalism that he brings day in and day out. Man, it's been cool to watch the growth and development of his career over the time that he's been here. If you remember, man, he was an undrafted COVID guy. And I think globally, man, it was single-digit guys that made rosters undrafted that COVID year. And he's been one of them. I didn't meet him until we reported to camp, and that's a memory. But just over the course of his career, I think since he's been here, he's played in more games than anyone on our roster. He's always available. He's a dynamic special teams player, and he's a rising defender, particularly in 2025.
Mike, what can you do to actually? What do you think is probably some of the biggest reasons why you guys have probably been a little more inconsistent this year when it comes to great performance against the Colts and then this kind of performance against the Chargers?
I think it's just complimentary football or lack thereof at times. There have been some games where we haven't played the way we desired defensively.
Excuse me.
Due to tangible and intangible reasons. There have been a couple of games offensively where we've done similar things, and I just think that the more that you can come to the party with a high level of consistency in all three phases, the better chance you have to play positive complementary football. And there's certainly been several weeks where one way or the other we've been lacking in a certain component of our collective that's made the engineer the victory a little bit more challenging.
Obviously, there's individual aspects of why whatever unit was struggling, but is there anything you do globally for the whole team to try to foster better Complementary football, is there something you can inject into the team at this point?
Well, largely on a routine basis, not in a reactionary sort of way. We work to have as much competitive football as we can have. Steelers versus Steelers. We started most of our practices with some form of competitive football, one offense versus one defense. We finish most of our practices with one offense versus one defense in some form of competitive football. I just think competing is the catalyst for raising the floor on both sides of the ball and providing an avenue for complementary play. But we don't wait for us to be lacking in a particular area before we do that. That's just part of how we choose to approach it culturally. I think there's no substitute for high-level competition. That's what waits on us in stadiums. And so as much as you can do that in preparation, I think is beneficial. While at the same time, you have to provide looks because you're going to get somebody that deploys different talents, different schematics, and so it's something worth balancing.
Aaron made some uncharacteristic mistakes and missed throws, not seeing things. You credit Jesse Minter with doing things that kept you guys off schedule at times. What do you guys have to do coaching-wise to counter what you guys saw there and keep it from being a blueprint to use against this offense?
You know, as I mentioned, it wasn't the first time we saw that blueprint, and so I'm not going to pretend like some of the things that we saw that created the negative result was new. We've conquered it before, and so it's reasonable to expect us to conquer it again. But we did not have a good day Sunday night, certainly.
With Aaron not having a good day, the high throws, some of those misses, are there any long-term concerns of things that have been recurring with him specifically in that game, or is it just an off night?
I'm not going to, chalk it up to an off night, but there are no long-term concerns.
Mike, what have been the concerns from a third down standpoint offensively over the last 3 games?
As I mentioned, we haven't done a good enough job of putting others other than DK in position to win and win big, and they haven't won big enough. We got to do a better job there.
When you say you're not going to chalk it up to an off night, but no long-term concerns, is that because of Jesse Minter, or is there something else?
I'm just not going to allow your words to be my words. That's all.
How would you describe Aaron?
Sunday night was what it was, but I have no long-term reservations about his ability to play the position and
I wouldn't either. Such a long career, but also he's played fine this year.
Dynamically, getting down the field. And
I do think I'll use the word off
Do you have an
night.
opportunity to maybe show you guys what he's got this week?
We'll see what the week holds for him and all the others on practice squad, man. We're not opposed to elevating people and giving them an opportunity to contribute. I think it's just been about every game this year where we've elevated someone and utilized their talents. Last week it was Mark Robinson, who we just reacquired. Several other weeks, man, it's been Trey Sermon, for example. And so I'm certainly open to evaluating Scantling, his ability to know what to do and the quality of that execution and how it might fit into what we're trying to do offensively in an effort to engineer victory, certainly.
You guys let go of Juan Thorne and then went from being a starter to a guy that you get players that you guys didn't even call upon as a backup. What happened that lead to his being let go of the team?
And now he's gone.
The play wasn't up to snuff, and Castro was available to us. We went through the team development process with Castro. Thought he had a good camp, good preseason. He played his tail off in that practice against the Bucs. I think that's why, they stole him from us, and we had an opportunity to reacquire him. We've absorbed some attrition since he left, and so it was an opportunity to get him back. It's more about Castro and less about Juan.
When it comes to time of possession and the number of plays run, would you like to see the running game leaned on a little bit more, especially early in games?
Again, as I said a million times, man, if we win enough third downs, we'll run the ball more because we'll have more snaps.
Mike, we talk about results or process. Obviously, you get some games there's 6 takeaways, 5 takeaways, and 0. Do you watch the tape even like Sunday night? Do you see it's just, I want to say luck, but the other team took care of the ball? You still like the process in terms of getting splash plays defensively?
Yeah, we don't chalk it up to luck, man. It's a culture that we work on, the ball awareness, the ball hunting, when to appropriately do so, where we're tackling it and compromised, et cetera. It is an agenda of ours. Sometimes it turns up in the form of 5 or 6 takeaways. Sometimes it turns up in the form of 0, but it doesn't lessen our attention to that area and our commitment to that area. But it's twofold. It's not only the hunting of the football, it's the preservation of the football on the other side of it. And that's one of the things that I was referring to when I was talking about the competition component of practice, Steeler versus Steeler. When we place an emphasis on ball searching and hunting, we're also fortifying our ball security from an offensive perspective. And certainly the turnover ratio is something that we desire to be great in. And so it's two sides to that coin. But when you work, you're working both sides of it.
Matt has frequently had success against Cincinnati over the years. Is that because of something, how his skill set meshes against their defensive approach, or is that something that's transferable, you think, to Jonnu and your other tight ends potentially?
They play a lot of zone, or they've played a lot of zone, particularly with their previous coordinator, and that's why he's had some big games against those guys. There's no secret that Muth has got very good zone awareness, and he's a zone killer, and that's why he's had some of the games that he's had against those guys.
Mike, even when Calvin came back from injury, Keyshawn stated as a punt returner. Was that on merit because of what he was doing, and then how does his lack of ball security affect?
You know, as Calvin came back from injury, we wanted him to focus on getting back up to speed offensively. Key had done an above-the-line job in that space, but certainly we'll look at it this week and make plans accordingly given what transpired in the last game.
Mike, what do you need to do better this time in stopping Jamar Chase?
You know, make them throw the ball elsewhere. But when you make them throw the ball elsewhere, it's guys like T. Higgins that are capable of getting you as well. They've got big-time talent. They're unique in the ways that they distribute him the ball. They got some RPO football where they have some call runs. And if you load the box, they'll throw him the ball on the perimeter. It might not be significant. It might be 5 or 6 yards here, but it keeps him engaged and included in what it is that they're doing. And dynamic players like that, man, they got to touch it. And so the more he touches it, the more impactful he's going to be on the game. And so it starts first and foremost with working to minimize his touches. You don't always have control of that. But when he does touch the ball, you certainly have to tackle the catch because he's one of the best run-after guys on the planet, and that's without question.
You know, worried that you guys have become maybe a little too predictable on offense with your personnel groups and that stuff?
I don't.
Why not? I mean, you said the Chargers didn't have the blueprint necessarily for, like, they didn't do something new, but you guys weren't successful at it.
Because we didn't execute well.
Mike, where are Will Howard and Corey Trice are they on track to return from IR? They've been practicing.
Yeah, we got a decision to make, and I'm sure we will, and when we do, we'll let you guys know.
Your earlier comment about you've seen the blueprint before that stopped your offense. What do you guys as coaches have to do to better counter that? You know, seeing that moving forward, if more teams start to use
As I mentioned, we've worked to put guys in a variety of positions to move the chains on third down other than DK. It's their job to do so when we do. We've done a better job of that in the past in other games than we did on Saturday. The results speak for itself. And so with that understanding, we're going back to work this week, and we got to put together a better plan. We got to make more plays.
Talked about having depth at corner as a part of the decision to move Ramsey to safety. With Slay potentially out, do you still feel like you have enough depth there to do that?
I do.
What guys, maybe beyond the one, obviously Joey, but I mean, Eccles and Pierre, are there more options beyond that available?
And all of those guys have played and have played quality ball and played quality ball in the last game, and so it's reasonable to expect them to position themselves, particularly with a week's work if Slay is unavailable, to do so again. He certainly will be limited during the course of the week because he's in the protocol. When he's limited, that provides additional reps for other people. James Pierre, for example, played a good football game on a limited amount of reps last week. If Slay's unavailable this week, that just means more reps for him during the course of the process of preparation, and so I'm comfortable with our depth there.
Anyone else?
When you play a game that's in the 30s against a team, you play them again 4 weeks later or whatever, do you have a more aggressive mindset in terms of your decisions or in terms of what you want the play calling to be because you figure you need a lot of points?
I've just been in this league long enough to know that every game unfolds a little bit differently. I try to put together a plan in totality to engineer a victory regardless of circumstances, and sometimes some of those discussions are best had when you're there. You can waste a lot of time pondering hypotheticals this early in the week. We better just put together a really good plan in totality.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. This is what I have. I got a lot. So, third down has to be better. Fun fact, and not really fun here, 68% of the Steelers' drives, they get a first down or a touchdown. And that doesn't seem too bad, right? It's like, well, 68, that means 2 out of every 3 you're getting a first down or a touchdown, right? And yeah, that's exactly what that means. Only problem is that's only better than 5 teams. So only 5 teams in the NFL are worse. So that'd be 26 teams are better. Because you have 5 and you have us as 6. So yeah, 26 teams are better than us at that. We have bad time of possession. And that bad time of possession, here's another stat. We allow most of our points in the fourth quarter. Now, sometimes that's you're playing prevent. If you're up, you're trying to just not allow something cheap over the top. So you're going to allow a couple, 5 to 10 yards here and there. And eventually that team's going to work their way down the field. And we see what happens, right? Or, and here's the or, you're not playing that scenario. And the team is just scoring. So, simply, we're just getting tired, right? The last number I saw was 47% of our points that we allow have come in the fourth quarter. 47. If NFL games were 3 quarters, we'd be really good. So, remember how in years past, like multiple seasons, right? Everyone would make fun of the Steelers' offense, right? All the fans. And they would say, it's just run, run, pass. It's run, run, pass, punt. Run, run, pass, punt. Run, run, pass, punt, right? You can't say that this year. Because we pass on first down at the 10th highest rate in the NFL. We are 10th in the number of in our passing on first down. So you can't even say run, run, pass. I brought this up in previous videos. Aaron's 0-5 versus Harbaugh. Sometimes someone just has your number. Excuse me. We have gained some stability at safety between J-Ram and Kyle Duggar being back there. We'll see if that continues. Now, it wasn't announced by the time Mike was doing his press conference, but Asante Samuel Jr. was signed to our practice squad. I already got the video out for that, so if you guys could go check that out. He said, you learn with losses. That's true. You can also learn in wins, though, along with your losses. You can be successful, and you can win, and you can learn. You can do all that. As far as injuries concerned, Cole will be limited with his illness. He must be, really damn sick, because it's been something he's been dealing with for a couple weeks now. And when I had that break on the channel, both my main channel and this one, my cough was really bad. And I went and got some prescription cough suppressant. And I took it for, 10 days. Because they gave me 30 pills and I was supposed to take it 3 times a day. So I would take 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 at night. And I took it for 10 days and that was it. My cough's gone. Right? And I still take I was also taking a daily allergy med. And I still take that. But, if there's stuff I can get, NFL teams can get some good shit, I've heard. So, the fact that he's still sick says something. Scotty Miller. He has been cleared with his broken finger, so he'll start practicing. Who knows? As far as, as Mike Tomlin would say, we'll let his participation be our guide, right? Who knows how much he practices, if he plays. Slay is in the concussion protocol. There's not much you can do. I do question, like, would it be good for him to miss this game? Like, will it give his body some time to heal? Like, he's older, so maybe getting a week off would be a good thing. Plus, that means he would have a week 5 bye week, and he'd have a week 11 bye week, essentially. So you'd get 2 byes, more or less a third of the way through each part of the season, It would be almost a third each time. But Peppers, limited. Isaac has a chance, I guess, of being back this week. Bengals D is not good. We have seen that through many, many weeks. And their offense is getting pissed off about it. We saw that with Chase and Chase Brown. Jamar Chase Brown. Chase Brown was a lot harsher. Jamar Chase, his was really going to the locker room. And then once the media was there, he's like, I'm not going to really say anything. They did trade Logan Wilson at the trade deadline, I think the day of the trade deadline. And so they traded him to Dallas. And I think they released Jermaine Pratt way earlier in the year. And he's with the Colts right now. So their linebacker duo is very, very young. Sometimes that's good because they can fly around, and sometimes that's bad because if you ask some players, it doesn't really sink in for a linebacker probably until year 3 or year 4. That's when you're at your prime physical shape. But as far as your mind goes, you've kind of seen a good amount of stuff, and you've developed, hopefully, like good habits as far as film study, anything like that. And then you're able to just really fly around the field and not have to think about it too much. Trey Hendrickson, he is still recovering from his injury. Who knows if he plays? I saw one thing that said he's probably not going to play, which that'd be great. That means we would get away with this season with no Trey Hendrickson versus Pittsburgh. In the secondary, DJ Turner is number 1 in passes defensed. You have Dax Hill, a versatile DB, and Cam Taylor-Britt. Stone and Battle at the safety spot. The Bengals game versus the Bears, when Caleb hit Colston Loveland for that final touchdown to win the game, Battle was the player who hit Loveland, but he didn't wrap up. So Loveland just kind of bounced right off and off to the races. So it's possible he's learned from that and he's going to be wrapping up more. So we'll have to see if he... excuse me. We'll have to see if he actually wraps up versus Pittsburgh. Last time we played the Bengals, it was Joe's second game. His first game was versus Green Bay, and he didn't look too terrible. Had a good second half. Second game, you have the Icy Hot Bowl, and he lights up Pittsburgh. And everyone's like, Joe Flacco just lit us up. Fast forward a couple of weeks, versus the Jets and the Bears, he did it to them too. It wasn't just Pittsburgh he did that to. So he's playing well versus, well, everyone so far. A good second half versus Green Bay, a good game versus Pittsburgh, a good game versus the Jets, and a good game versus the Bears. Like, he's throwing he threw for what, 450? What was it versus the Bears? Like, he can still sling it, and he's got the smarts to go along with it. We have our Icy Hot Bowl Part 2. So, when the Steelers played the Bengals, it kind of felt like Pittsburgh could do no right on defense, where they changed up coverages, they changed up the actual matchup, they changed a whole lot of shit. And Jamar Chase said, fuck you, I'm gonna take over this game, right? Well, in order to try to limit Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, the Bears said, we're going to play too high. Okay? He just hit Chase Brown for like 7 catches, did Tomlin say, for however many yards. So the Bears couldn't do any right either, right? Because, okay, you sold out to stop Chase and Higgins, which I have Jamar Chase in my fantasy league, right? I can tell you how he did versus the Bears. He had, versus the Bears, 6 catches on 8 targets. Well, that's not too bad for 111 yards, right? He had, versus the Jets, 12 catches off 19 targets for 91 yards. So, first of all, it's not just Pittsburgh. He's a great wide receiver. No one can say he's not. And he's doing that shit to everybody. So, even the Bears are like, okay, we're going to stop them. First of all, he still had a good game. Second of all, you let Chase Brown just have a good game. Because Joe Flacco says, why should I force it to him? Why should I do what you want me to do? I'm just going to take this check down here, and he's going to have success. They have weapons all over the place. Weapons to spare. Weapons for days. And it's going to be a tough matchup again, even though, yes, it's in Pittsburgh. We really have to play Jalen Warren more, and we have to run the ball. It's getting irritating that we're not running the ball enough, and when it seems to be working, we go away from it for some reason. Like I said, we're literally on first down. Well, I said we were 10th, right? 10th in the league. We pass on first down at 10th highest rate in the league. That is insane. We need to run the ball a little. Again, I feel like Sandra Bullock in The Blind Side. Run the dang ball. And then we have a conundrum here. J. Ram at safety versus corner. Right? With Chase and Higgins. So now you're telling me it's going to be Joey, Eccles, and Pierre at corner if Slay doesn't clear protocol. And I'll get into James Pierre in just a second. But you're telling me it's those 3, right? Like, if I'm the Bengals, I'm finding whatever side James Pierre is on, and I'm putting Jamar Chase over there. And I'm going to have Chase go against Pierre. Now, if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm trying to prevent that, but we'll see what happens, right? Now on to James Pierre. I saw something today. It says James Pierre has 6 passes defensed. That is the 8th highest in the NFL. With how little he has played, he has that many passes defensed. Plus, when you take into account that, people are going at him because he's just come onto the field as a backup, teams tend to be like, okay, fresh legs, you're not a starter, so let's test you. And so far, he's been doing okay. So going with Juan Thornhill and Sebastian Castro, I made a video about that too. Tomlin said Juan was not up to snuff. It is more about Castro than it is Juan. So to get Sebastian Castro back, I think definitely for the special teams potential, is something that they want to be looking at, right? And then Howard and Trice, their 21-day windows are going to be coming to an end very soon, and the Steelers have to decide, are we activating you onto the 53-man, or are we going to see you next year? Each week is different, right? As much as we want to say, well, the good teams should always beat the bad teams, and good versus good you'll see, and bad versus bad we'll see, right? But this year seems like it is just a little topsy-turvy. And I'm going to use the Packers as the example here, just to get away from the Steelers, right? The Packers are, 5-3-1? Yeah, 5-3-1. They have beaten the Lions, which right now that looks like a pretty good win, but that was Lions week 1, where it's their first game with no Ben Johnson, no Aaron Glenn. Maybe they're just figuring things out. They beat Washington. That doesn't look like such a great win now, right? Beat Pittsburgh. Okay, it's, Pittsburgh's, especially the defense. And even then, you didn't have a good first half. You had a great second half that allowed you to win that game. Who else did they beat? I'm trying to think who else the Packers beat. I know they have 3 losses and a tie. Their 3 losses are to the Browns, to the Panthers, and to the Eagles. And then they tied Dallas, right? But first of all, you lost to the Browns. That's and I think that was that Dylan or was that Joe at the time? That might have still been Joe. I think that was still Joe. But you lost to the Browns. Then you lose to the Panthers at home, in which the Panthers, they have 5 wins. But are they a great team? Because they've had their blowouts. They just got blown out again. I mean, it was with Andy instead of oh my God, Bryce. But you got blown out by Buffalo. And now Buffalo just got blown out by Miami, right? Even though so Miami comes up to Buffalo. Buffalo intercepts the ball as Miami's trying to drive down the field to tie the game. Buffalo intercepts it. Now Buffalo goes down to Miami and they get blown out, right? And then, so going back to the Packers, and now you lose to the Eagles, 10-7, mind you, in which you didn't score your first points until 5 minutes and change left in the fourth quarter. You went 3 entire quarters without scoring and more than half of another quarter without scoring. So, and you scored 40 versus Dallas. Now, granted, Dallas's defense is not very good, but then and their offense is good, and you allowed 40. So you tied 40-40. Like, you just lost 10-7, right? You lost to Carolina in a low-scoring game. You lost to Cleveland in a low-scoring game. All of their losses were low-scoring. Like, they have not won a low-scoring game this year. Or, I shouldn't say that. They might have. I don't know their exact schedule, but all of their losses were low scores. Like I said, Buffalo beats Kansas City and then gets blown out by Miami. Atlanta lost 30-0 versus Carolina, but then blows out Buffalo. Each week is different. Like, more so this year than it seems like years past, where this year it seems like anything can happen. Right? Hell, Kansas City blew out the Raiders, right? 31-0, but the Raiders also beat New England earlier in the year, and they nearly beat Jacksonville, who beat Kansas City. Like, anyone can get got. Anyone, I feel like any good game where it's good versus bad, it's almost as likely to be a blowout as it is a close game. Right? Like, it's either going to be close or it's a blowout. There's not like, and I mean like demolishing blowout. Not, oh, we won by 10 or we won by 14. Kind of a blowout. Like, no, you win by 30 kind of blowout. Or you win by a point. Or hell, you lose. Maybe you're the better team and you get blown out. Again, Buffalo at Miami. So, this season is just insane. So, I don't know what's going to happen. And you'd like to think you know which teams are good. But it feels like you almost can't tell. So, one final note. Tomlin, right? I know everyone wants him fired, and I've talked about it before where I'm like, no, you don't fire him, you trade him, right? And this goes with a question, right? If I told you the Steelers could trade Mike Tomlin after the season, because you can't do it now, trade the deadline's done and over. You can trade Mike Tomlin for another head coach. It's going to be a 1-for-1 swap. No draft picks, no nothing. We are simply swapping coaches, right? Would Steelers fans be happy that we traded Mike Tomlin for Matt LaFleur? I'm going to use him as an example because he is a coach that Packers fans want fired. So you're talking about Steelers fans wanting Tomlin fired, Packers fans want LaFleur fired, right? But could Packers fans see that and hell yeah, we want Mike Tomlin? Could Steelers fans see that and hell yeah, we want Matt LaFleur? But you're just getting a coach that the other fans want fired. Like, I understand that if a coach doesn't have high levels of success, then they will, the fans will be in an outrage, in a fury, and everyone needs to be fired. Or the coach needs to be fired. Like, I understand if the coach isn't performing, that's where fans go to. But you have to think, what is on the other side of it, right? Is it Matt LaFleur? And maybe he doesn't do well, you know? Maybe he comes in and he sucks. Okay, Matt LaFleur, you're fired. And here comes this next coach, and you're fired. And this next coach, and you're fired. And this next coach, and you're fired. There's no... Obviously, people are like, well, we don't want this purgatory of... we're middle of the road, NFL team-wise, and we never get a draft pick high enough to go get our franchise guy, and we're never good enough on both sides of the ball to we're never good enough on both sides of the ball to make a true run at a Super Bowl, right? So they're like, tank, have a bad year, whatever. Well, we see what happens when the Steelers struggle. These are the same people that are saying tank, and the Steelers are struggling, and they're like, this is ridiculous. Like, but you wanted us to tank. What's the difference between tanking and just not being good? Obviously, there's a difference of you're intentionally trying to lose games. But, like, which do you want, Do you want them to be good, or do you want them to get a high pick? There's that to a degree. But, like, I'm sure there's, like, if... so it's like, okay, maybe you do Matt LaFleur. You would definitely do like a Sean McVay straight up, right? In fact, you would say, okay, take Tomlin and take whatever, name a draft pick, and give us McVay. Would you want? You probably want Kevin O'Connell from Minnesota. But would you want Todd Bowles down in Tampa? Would you want... would you want Sean McDermott from Buffalo? Would you want Kyle Shanahan? Would you want Mike McDonald over in Seattle, or McDaniel down in Miami? It's who would you take straight up from Mike Tomlin if you were to just do a 1-for-1 coach trade? And that's something I think about, like, who would I take over Tomlin, right? Now, obviously, you could get rid of Tomlin and try to hire some young, hotshot coordinator. But how many times, and everyone fantasizes about getting like a Shanahan or a McVay or Kevin O'Connell, all these offensive gurus who were once offensive coordinators. But those are really the outliers, right? How many times does an OC come in and he doesn't work, or a DC come in and he doesn't work, right? Like, you don't want to think about those, or maybe you don't remember those because the guy failed, right? How many times does a guy come in, he had a franchise quarterback at his old team that he's the offensive coordinator for, maybe he's the offensive coordinator under an offensive-minded head coach, so is he even really calling the plays? Like, that's just the thing that people don't think about. And don't be like, oh, you're just, so, there's a name for it, and I know there is. The people who, like, love Tomlin and never want him to leave ever. There's There's a name for it, and I can't think of what it is. But like, you know, like a Tomlin lover. But like, if there truly is a better option out there, okay. But don't get rid of him just to get rid of him. You know what I'm saying? Like, make sure it's for an actual reason that you get rid of him. That's just my view on it. So, that is it. Those are all of my notes. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do me a favor and leave a like. Let me know what you think. You know, if you want to compile a list of every head coach, that it can't be coordinators. It has to be head coaches that are currently head coaches right now. So Brian Dable doesn't count. Nor does Brian Callahan, the guy that got fired from Tennessee. They have to be a head coach right now because that's the point. It's a trade. Who would you trade straight up Mike Tomlin for? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.